Welcome to the final Meet the Experts session and the last of our capacity building sessions. So hopefully after this, you'll be super prepared with your application for the LIVEMX. Right now, similar to what we did in the expert session, for those of you that were there, because I can see lots of familiar faces in the Zoom room here, I've just launched a poll because obviously this session is dedicated to the live venues challenges. So I'd just like to know from each of you which challenge your project is potentially looking to address. So if you can just select that on the poll, that would be great. I'm just going to let a few more people in now. They're in the waiting room. And then I will say, have a great session. If you could all make sure the microphone is on mute. And then what we'll do is throughout the presentation, we'll be addressing the different questions you may have. So I'll ask you to unmute. For those of you that maybe are on the shyer side, feel free to use the chat also to drop any questions in. And now I'm going to hand you over for this session on live venues to my colleagues from LiveDMA, Erica, and to our expert of the day, Ken Veerman. So the floor is yours, guys.
Thank you, Grace. Welcome, everyone. This session today is for a deep dive into the topic of live music venues inside of the core of LiveMX. The general idea is to give you first an overview of the program just very shortly. I'm going to do that. Then I'm going to pass the floor to Ken Veerman, is our great expert for today. And then the idea is to, apart from explaining the three challenges that you can address with this core and live music venues, is also to maybe get some new ideas going. If you are developing an idea, maybe you can get some inspiration here for developing it further, and also, of course, to just resolve any doubts that you may have. Could we go to the next slide, please? And yeah, basically that's it. We hope that at the end of this session, you will have everything you need to go forward with the month you have ahead and to present a great project. Can we go to the next slide, please? Yeah. So basically, LiveMX, as you probably already know, is a program/project co-financed by the European Union. It's 3 years long with 3 calls for proposals and also a capacity building program that goes around it and next to it. And I think the main idea is to nurture a more diverse and sustainable music sector by basically feeding new ideas to get solutions to challenges that we have identified through a process with experts to see what could help the live music sector and the music sector in general in Europe. Yeah, it's managed by 3 organizations. LIVEMX, that is a consultancy in Portugal that is an expert in European projects. They have more than 25 years of experience. IMI, that's the European Music Exporters Exchange, is a non-profit association with 33 national music export offices from 28 countries, I believe, at the moment. And then lastly, LiveDMA, that we are a network of live music associations in 16 different countries. These are mostly composing, their members are mostly live music venues, but also festivals in some cases. So as you can see, it's a large consortium in expertise. At least it's small in number of members, but in expertise, it's great to both know about the topics and also manage it in an effective way. We hope, and we are. I think we are happy with the results up to now. So the 2 main components of the program or the project are the funding scheme and the capacity building program. If we go to the next slide, the funding scheme is probably what you are most interested in, I imagine, if you're here today. Basically, the funding scheme is going to allow 4 million euros of funding to be redistributed to new ideas and projects around Europe on the 3 different topics that we will see more in detail. And then we have 3 grant categories. This means that there's a maximum, there are 3 fixed amounts that you can decide on one of them. That means that there's a maximum of 60,000 euros, 40,000 euros, or 20,000 euros for your project. We expect to fund around 90 projects in total during the 3 calls for proposals and in the 3 topics. And we are now in the middle of the second open call. There will be a third one in November. For this one, you have until the 24th of June. We don't expect to extend the deadline, so please make sure that you meet it. Just about the 3 topics, briefly, I guess you're here today if you're interested in the live venues one. Also, we have digital circulation that has to apply to either music expo or either live venues. So if your project is on live venues, but the main solution that you're developing is a digital solution, you might consider that third topic. There was a Meet the Experts specifically on this last week, and it will be uploaded on the website. So check it out if you have some doubts, but we can see it afterwards when we open the ground for questions. Next slide, please. Well, the capacity building session program, has 2 phases. One is open to everyone who is applying to the call for proposals, one of them, all of them. And the second phase is only for those selected projects. The information sessions are the general information sessions in which we do a deep dive into also the application form, and we give details on everything of the program and the process for applying. So if you weren't able to attend the information session that took place last week, I would highly recommend that you check the recording on the website. And then we have to meet up with experts, which is what we are in today. And these are just more like a workshop format in which we have great experts that know about the 3 challenges of each of the topics. And this way we can make sure that you can also come up with some new ideas, maybe also do some networking in the chat, and just make sure that you have a really interesting project that you are happy to submit. And then for those selected projects, there will be a series of networking activities. I hope that you are lucky to get there, and yeah, we will see that later on. Next slide, please. Yeah, so just an overview of the timeline again. Right now we are in the second open call. As I said before, there will be a third open call. So I think this is good news, because even if you are not selected this time, you will receive a very nice feedback that you can work with. If you applied for the first round, you probably know this already, and then you can adapt your proposal and try once again in November. So I think that is good news. Yeah, an overview of the first open call. It was very successful in the amount of applications received. Also, that makes it competitive, of course, but we are happy that we received so many applications, 249, as you can see specifically. Most of them were for 60,000 euros. That's just because the activities proposed were believed to need that amount of money, so just something to take into account. The topics were quite well distributed between live music venues, music expo, and then the digital strand for each of those 2 topics. Then I think there was a very, very good geographical distribution. 32 countries were selected. Well, 32 organizations from different countries were selected. And also one of the main things of this program of LIVEMX is to promote newcomers to the European project world. And since it can be a bit complicated, so the idea of this program specifically is to make it easy to apply, easy to justify afterwards the report. And there is also extra points if you haven't participated in European projects in the last 3 years, and also extra points if you haven't led any European projects in the last 3 years. So that means that we got good results in that sense on the first round. As you can see, 85% of the projects hadn't participated in other projects in Europe in the last 3 years, and also 63% hadn't led any. And yeah, 25 selected in total. I would really also recommend that you go to the website and check out the descriptions of these 25 projects. They are there, and you can see from what topic they belong to. This is good not only for inspiration, but also to make sure that you don't repeat any ideas that have already been selected for funding, because those would be very, very difficult to refund, so as to put it. So yeah, I think it's really worth taking half an hour to go through these descriptions, and they are also just really interesting projects anyway. Next slide, please. Why should you apply? Well, this is a very good thing that I think the consortium is very proud of. It's quite unusual that you get 100% of the cost of your project funded instead of having to provide a co-financing on your side. So this is a great opportunity, I think, and quite unique. Also, the reporting is very easy through lump sum. This means that though you should keep all of your invoices and timesheets and basically any documentation for justifying your costs of the project, you won't have to present them. That is only just in case there were any issues, but basically you will be how do you to put it, and you will get paid for the activities that you promised you would deliver and you did deliver. So as long as you promise that you keep to your timeline and your activities and your results, the rest is just the nitty-gritty of the costs will not be an important thing at all. And then of course just it's 1 year long, the project that you should be designing. Next slide, please. As for eligibility, you should choose one of the 3 topics. That is live music venues, music exports, or digital circulation and engagement. As I said before, digital circulation and engagement must pertain also to live music venues or to music export, just with the difference that you are focusing on a digital solution. So that makes it more like there's 4 categories in a way, but anyway. They should have a European dimension that I'll get into in a bit, because this one is a bit maybe complicated to understand, but it's a very important eligibility aspect. So I think we can talk a bit about it in the next slide. But for now, also to say that you should be a legal entity. This is not a call for natural persons or for someone who's a freelance. There are other calls for that, but this one you have to be a registered legal entity. Not much else than that, but that is important. And monobeneficiary, this is also a tricky thing, but it's actually really simple. It just means that the contract will be signed between the LIVEMX consortium and you as an organization, and no other organization will be in that contract. So that means that you will be responsible alone for executing the project, reporting the project, and communicating with the LIVEMX consortium. That doesn't mean that you can't do it in collaboration with other organizations. Actually, we do encourage that, but you will include them as you wish in the budget internally as subcontracting or as cost of services or through voluntary work, however you feel best. So you can and should, if you can, include collaborations, but the contract will be only between you and us, to put it simply. And your organization should be in one of the Creative Europe countries that is a bit larger than a European Union country. There are some extra, so as to put it, countries. You can check the guidelines for the full list there. Okay, we get to the important stuff. What is the European added value? I'm going to try to put it simple. It means that your project should be useful and interesting for organizations other than your own and in any other European country. So you are not developing a project for your own organization or your own city. You are developing a solution that can be applied in any other European country. You can achieve this in 2 main ways. One is that you develop a project in collaboration with other organizations from other European countries. So as I was saying before, you can have a group of organizations, even though it's mono-beneficiary, but you can do something together, and that will already ensure from the beginning that the results that you're producing are useful for other organizations and countries in Europe, or because you should always communicate, that you create something that is transferable and scalable to other European countries other than your own. So that means that you can develop a solution for the challenge that you have identified. You can do it alone without collaboration with other countries. However, it should be in some way demonstrated that this solution is very interesting and even usable by other organizations from other countries. And you should also include, of course, already in the project timeline, some way of sharing this solution through dissemination activities, through training activities, some kind of way to ensure so that we know that you're actually making it reach these other countries. So you should ask yourself, I think, two main questions when developing your project in this sense. One, which countries will benefit from the project, either directly or indirectly? And where will the activities take place? If the answer is no to both of them, then it's not good, basically. So it should have a transnational dimension, either in its development or in its dissemination. And it should have impact and interest for a number of EU countries. And it should have the possibility to use the results in other countries. Also to develop cross-border cooperation in the actual project development. I think that can be enough, but anyway, you can ask questions in the chat, and also we will open the floor afterwards for any clarifications on this or any other topic that you can have doubts on. Okay, so now we get into the real nitty-gritty of today, that is live venues. You have three priorities or challenges that you can address. You have to choose one, even though you might target others indirectly, but you should at least focus on one, and you have to select it in the form. So this will ensure that your project is easy to understand. Also, the three another important thing before I forget, the beneficiaries of this topic of live music venues have to be live music venues. And that means that the beneficiaries or the applicants can be a live music venue or a live music venue association. Or it could be another type of organization, but the solution that you're developing has to be directly targeted 100% for live music venues. It's not live music in general. It's not solutions for festivals. It's not solutions for any other thing. This, if you choose live music venues, we are going for solutions for live music venues. So just keep that into mind. So what we want in general, if you choose this topic, is that you provide strategies, methodologies, and actions for live music venues, something new, something innovative, something that is providing solutions to these challenges that we have identified with experts that are pressing challenges at the moment in Europe. When we talk about, though Ken is going to explain this in a more detailed way, but when we talk about develop artist circulation in Europe, we want to see projects that provide solutions to cross-border cooperation or cross-border transfer of artists in Europe. There is a financial risk many times of giving stage to international artists for music venues, especially if those artists are not well known. So we want to see projects that give new ideas to solve this problem and stimulate basically circulation of artists and also their career development and all in all artistic diversity in our music venue programming in Europe. Then we have the second challenge, that is to develop ecological solutions for live music venues. Here we want to see projects that create incentives, tools, or strategies to lower the carbon footprint and basically the impact on the environment of live music venues. And this is also very difficult to do in a financially viable way, especially for small music venues. So if you have solutions for this, great, we really want to see them. And actually we didn't see any selected ones in the first call, so take that into account too. And lastly, the last challenge is to develop new audience strategies. Here we want to see projects that based on community building, for example, or audience development programs, or basically projects that attract new audiences to our music venues. Then apart from that, before I finish talking about the topic of live music venues in general, it would be really good to integrate one of the two aspects that we want to see in live music venues to any of the projects that you present. One is that you either reinforce the human resources of music venues or improve the working conditions. That means that that either you find ways of giving more training programs for music venue staff, or find new ways of investing in them, and or provide peer learning and capacity building for live music venues. This can be done especially by live music venue associations, by providing workshops, trainings, and basically, well, remote mentorship, professional schemes, etc. That you can read in more detail in the guidelines, but just take into account that this is something that we want to cover transversely. And without further ado, I'm going to give the floor to Ken Firman. Ken is an advisor for music venues, cultural venues, and other cultural organizations. He has been working in venues in Belgium for 15 years plus, and now uses that experience to help venues in their strategies to optimize many different things. One of them is audience development. He has focused a lot on that in his latest career. And that means that he also developed a tool for live DMA that is really good. That is called the Triangle. That is a tool to come up with new ideas on how to reach new audiences. So if you're going for that challenge inside of the live music venue topic of the call, I would also recommend that you check the Triangle tool. But Ken, I think you will explain it better. So yeah, the floor is yours. And thank you so much.
Thank you, Erica. And hello, everybody. From my side, I'm told that this is quite a shy group, so I'm going to address this in the beginning. This only works if you guys interact with me, because otherwise it'd just be me showing some slides. I think it would be good to to have interaction. You can say something, you can type something in the chat, but we'll get hopefully we'll get into some kind of dialogue, because that's the way to do it. I'm going to be talking you through the three challenges that Erica introduced, and I'm going to do this by always introducing two statements that are kind of philosophical statements, so things to think about, and these are conversation starters. Erica is going to jump in with examples of previous applications that have addressed this question, and we'll see what happens. The best way of doing it, I think, Erica, is if you read the chat and you interrupt me if there's an interesting question, because I can't be talking and chatting at the same time. Questions about the topic itself, about either circulation, sustainability, or audience development, we'll address now. There's also going to be like a Q&A at the end where you can ask all the other questions. For example, questions about, Marina's asked a question about eligibility. I'm not going to go into the technical things because I'm not the technical person on that, but there are a lot of clever people online right now that will help you in the last part, the final part of the session. So if that's good for you, we'll jump into the first challenge, which is to develop artist circulation in Europe. I think this is the main challenge for European music professionals. If we, the way that I'd like to put it to you is the following. There's the first statement that I would like to show you. That's on the next slide, which is, we seem to know everything about every obscure American and British release, but for some reason we are unable to name the three biggest bands in the country, just one country over, in the neighboring country. There is a tradition of promotion, of discourse around Anglo bands, because they have a large distribution channel. They're famous, they're known, but also a quite good, even mediocre British band can go on tour, whereas a very good Polish band has got a hard time convincing the French venues to book them. So this could be an issue that I hope you guys recognize. And this could, if you can come up with a solution for this, if you have a plan that is scalable, or that can teach other countries how to bridge that border between two neighboring countries, that would be a very good topic to work on when it comes to artist circulation. So far, no questions. Does anybody have a question? Feel free to jump in. Is anybody thinking about addressing this question, promoting bands from a smaller country, a non-country, could also be a non-English scene where it's harder to get known and famous. Alan has got a question.
Yeah, hi everybody. My name is Alin. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, cool. My name is Alin. I'm from Romania. I run a festival called Jazz in the Park, and we've been doing this for 10 years, and we've recently rented out a venue that we want to transform in the first jazz club in my region, believe it or not. And yeah, this is a topic that's really interesting for us, and we've been tackling this, but from a different perspective, from the perspective on how to help Romanian acts get noticed and get international tourings, because although they're good, they're not necessarily famous, and they often have this problem of selling tickets, and because if we tackle the aspect of the music industry. So what we've been doing so far was trying to put our brand of the festival and doing exchanges with other festivals or live music venues to bring their bands from their countries in order for them to bring a Romanian band. We've been doing this with our neighbor, with Hungary, with Bulgaria, with Serbia, most of all. But yeah, this is a challenge that I'm actually really interested in.
Yeah, I think what you're explaining is perfect for this branch. Really, the circulation of artists, Romanian artists in your case, and what you're doing is you're exchanging them. That's what I understand with Hungarian bands kind of have across. That could be a project. There are a lot of challenges that you need to address, and there are a lot of things we can learn from this. So it really feels like this is the kind of challenge that you should be doing. It ties in nicely with the second statement, which is that perhaps it's not about showcasing individual bands, but about building networks and infrastructure. It's not about getting 60,000 euros from LIVEMX to promote the one Romanian band that is really good, but to build something that the next Romanian bands can also use. A system that is a tradition, that is an infrastructure that we can make more sustainable than it is right now. Alan, thank you for adding that. Anybody else who wants to address something on this topic? No? Okay, good. Then I think we can jump to the second challenge, which is developing ecological solutions adapted to the live music industry.
Sorry, shall I maybe share one example from the
Oh,
first?
yeah, sorry. Yes.
Just
Yeah, look,
to
go back one
maybe
slide and we'll talk about the example. My bad.
Yeah, maybe just to give some inspiration by something that has been already done in the first round. Keep On Live, that is the Live Music Association, Venues Association in Italy, is going to develop a platform for venues to put together in which artistic directors can communicate to the network what the prices are for a set of artists, or basically it's a platform for the live music venues to see who is on tour and maybe to like offer bulk offers to different artistic managers. So basically it's a platform for, I think they're going to test out a platform at Italian level, and if it works well, they will extend it to at European level. But it's a way to put in information of each of the venues and the prices for renting out the venue, etc. And that can be put in common with the prices of artists that are touring. And then together they can see if they can set up like a Italian tour between these venues, joining forces and sharing information together. So I think that is an example of something that is already done, but I'm sure that if you read in detail what this platform is, you can find other ways of ensuring similar results. But yeah, and I think what Ken was saying about this is not to promote one artist circulating through Europe. It's an important thing. This is not to provide funding for one artist or band to circulate inside Europe. This is to provide solutions for artists, music artists in general, to tour to different countries in Europe, and basically that audiences have access to different artists from different countries, and also that artists that don't have a lot of exposure normally have the opportunity to play in different countries. So just think of different ideas of schemes or other solutions, networks, whatever you can think of that can help this issue that we have of the difficulties in programming emerging artists from other countries.
Yeah, thank you. What I think is really interesting about the Keep On Live project is that it's an example of a LIVEMX project that is just one country, Italy. But the plan is to make it scalable. If it works in Italy, we can take it to other countries, and so other European countries can learn from it. It doesn't have to be right out of the gate. It doesn't have to be like a collaboration between 7 countries to make it work. It can be something you test in one country, but that is also already built as a scalable thing. If it works, we're going to apply it in different countries. I think that's a good example of the transferable or the scalable part of the application. Okay, shall we jump to the second challenge, which is to develop ecological solutions adapted to the live music industry, basically ecology. Here, I think the first one that I would like to talk to you about is that sustainability is about discovering the future. So we want to hear about experiments that deliver key learnings. So no predictable outcomes. The best example is Europe is not going to fund solar panels on the roof of your music venue. That's not what this application is for. That's also very sustainable. But this is something that we know. If you put solar panels on your roof, you save electricity, and so on and so forth. It's nothing new. We're looking for new insights, new ideas to make the music industry more sustainable and to give you the room and the space to experiment with this. And then this should result in key learnings, into a report, into something that we've learned. And I think this, if you write something in this part of the application, you should always make it about what is the question that we're investigating and what are the potential learnings that we can have. And experiment means that the result doesn't have to be predictable. It can be something completely different from what you thought it was going to be. It could also be it doesn't work. But it's really important to set it up as an experiment. I think this is an important challenge for sustainability. Is that something that one of you is working on in live music venues? Anybody who wants to share?
We've got 7 people that answered the poll saying that they were interested in this challenge. So
okay, that's good. Who are these 7 people? No, you don't have to say anything if you don't feel like it. But if you have something to share with us, okay. I see that somebody has raised his hand.
welcome back, Mauricio, by the way. Thanks for being our loyal capacity building fellow.
Thank you. I'm gonna try to turn on my camera.
Yes.
Yeah, it's working. Okay.
Yes.
Great. Yeah. Thank you, Ken, for all the insights. Yeah, we've been developing actually Music Cares is a platform for sustainability in all the 3 dimensions. We started with the pilot version this year where we launched like a calculator for carbon emissions directed to live music venues up to 3,000. So we have a pilot version, which is like very, at this point, very good, but we are looking into optimizing all the features that we have. I mean, the platform is already online and you can look into it. And then we have explored different areas. So we're looking, I mean, we have already like a pilot version. We want to continue developing this, optimizing the functions, the features, and also putting more transparency because it's all based on our own database with emission factors and different calculations. We're trying to build up also like a network of sustainability initiatives, projects, collectives, venues, and music actors are already, music stakeholders are already working towards this. And we're looking now to apply for this open call to continue developing this, like in the, let's say, like the environmental sustainability, but we're looking now into social sustainability and the socioeconomic aspect, which they all go together. There's no sustainability without the other 3, or you have to work on the 3-dimensional sustainability. So we're looking into it. So what we want to know really, I mean, we're preparing the application already. We're like far ahead, I think, in our application. We have decided that we're going to do it. We see the potential and everything. But the thing is that for this ecological, because I mean, the project, it has addressed this already. We're looking into optimizing and moving on into the socioeconomic sustainability aspect of integrating the environmental, social, and economic. So that's the thing. It's not going to be only, our application is not going to be mainly focused on ecological solutions for live music venues, for touring, for festivals. It has this component already, but we have to optimize it and make it better with all the features and everything. So this is one part, but we're looking more into actually with hopefully the allocation of the funds to move into the socio-economic aspects of sustainability. So this is where we at. I hope we are like, going to, finish the application with all these components. So that's my comment. It's kind of like a comment or observation question. If it's valid to continue developing what we already have on the environmental sustainability dimension.
A couple of things that stand out is, one, it sounds like you've got something really good when it comes to the carbon calculator, which is very practical. I would advise you to avoid telling your story like this by saying, we're doing something and now we want money for more of the same. Make sure that you really emphasize what the new chapter is going to be. With this money, we're going to do this, which doesn't exist. So it's not more of the same. It is building on something, but the thing we build is new. I think that is very important in the storytelling of the application. And I would be careful with presenting it as a bit of sustainability and a bit of audience development. I think you should choose and then say, we choose this one. It can be the other one as well, but we've chosen for this perspective, for this reason, and that's why we apply in this strand. If you do it like that, it becomes more confident and less of an opportunity to say, well, it's good, but maybe it's not ecological enough, or maybe it's not audience development enough. If it's about the social component, we could also jump to the third one, which is audience development. We'll talk about that in a minute. You could also apply that perspective and say, we've worked in ecology, but ecology without audience development, without community building, without the social aspect is not good enough. So we now build on the new thing. That could also be a perspective you try to, but make sure that the choice you make, you picked one, explain why you picked that one, make it confident, and then start from there. If you keep it open too much, it becomes less strong and less confident. And I think that is going to be a challenge in your application.
Okay. Great. Thank you, Ken.
Ken, I think we've got Marina that's also maybe interested and has a question.
Yes, hello, thank you. We are a national association. It's called Plataforma Jazz España. We are an association of jazz festivals and programmers in Spain. We are right now 32 jazz festivals. Most of these festivals have their own venues as well. And we've been working in sustainability tours with an European project called Better Life. This is the second year. We already have started to make them real. We have just done one in spring. And one of the first questions is if we are eligible, but I think we will talk about that later. But our idea is, as we have learned a lot from our European peers about sustainable tours, and we think we can help emerging jazz artists in Spain to tour in those conditions. And for that, we have to teach and to help programmers to know how to co-program sustainable. We have learned how to do it at a European level, but we know we can do it at a national level, keeping this contact and this learning thing with the Europeans, of course, because we are still learning. But I don't know if this project fits within, it can fit, but of course this is not like typical venues. We are talking about festival programmers with different kind of venues. And the first thing would be to know if this kind of idea could fit.
I think that for the call on live venues, this is going to be challenging because the beneficiary of this thing is not a live venue. It might be interesting on another application, but I think this is going to be tricky. You might solve that by working together with live music venues who book bands, and you say we're just really going to work on disseminating this information that we have on a European level, bringing it to local music venues when it comes to sustainable touring. That could be a way of doing it. But I think that there is the Achilles heel of your application is that it's not for live music venues directly, and this is going to be an issue, I think. And I'm now looking at Erica or Grace to confirm this.
Yeah, I completely agree, and it is super interesting, but it should be as Ken was saying, it should the main final beneficiaries should be live music venues. So if you focus the program on venues, that would be great. And also, you were mentioning that you were going to transfer something European to Spain. That is also maybe not the best strategy if you're going for this program, because what we want to see is something that is useful for Europe. You could, however, make some exchange with these organizations from Europe that you mentioned that you inspired by or that you work with, and develop something together with them that can be applied in Spain, but also in other places. You could test it out in Spain maybe, but then include some kind of transfer at European level, so that we know that it's not something that is only going to be useful for European jazz venues or associations, but it's also useful for any jazz venue in Europe. I think that's something else that you should take into account when preparing this proposal.
One way of addressing it would be to say we've learned all this like sustainability theory in Europe, and now we're going to test drive this theory in practice, and we're going to do this in a couple of venues in Spain, and why not in a couple of venues in Portugal as well? So you have this cross-border thing that is also good for the application. But then the EU added value to the whole thing is we have a test drive of theory, and we can again present key learnings. This worked, this didn't work. These are like important things to take into account. This only works if we have this kind of criterion. I think this is very important to really set it up as an experiment instead of saying we want to do something with ecological touring. If you really write it into the way the application is set up, I think you have a valid program and a fundable one. But we really have to like turn it into what the LIVEMX call is asking for. And I think you have a couple of things you can play around with to make it more to make it have a bigger chance of really getting the application right.
Okay, thank you.
Is that an answer to your question, Marina?
It gives. I would have to ask more. I don't want to make too much questions here, but I think we can work with the things we have, but maybe change some parts of the project. Or make a different focus of the idea, maybe.
If you do have any follow-up questions, just a reminder that I'm sure Patricia will put it in the chat right now, is that we do have the generic email, which is the general@livemx.eu. So feel free if come up with any other additional questions after this session and would like to follow up there, like Patricia will route it in the corresponding direction to try and get the answers for you.
Yeah. So to summarize, I think Mauricio's example was a good example of storytelling. You really need to tell your project in the right way to make it eligible and to make it interesting enough for the LIVEMX call. I think Marina's example was one where you can workshop with all the different kind of elements that are in there and make it fit as neatly as possible into the application call. I think these are like the things you need to do before you start writing your application. Make sure that you think about the question, is this relevant enough for LIVEMX, and is it within the call and within the borders? I think this is really interesting.
Sorry, we have another question, another idea in the chat. Maybe we can cover that too.
Sure.
Shall I read it, or shall Joseph Hellman, do you want to read your question? Or do you prefer if I do it? I can do it then.
Yeah.
He has no mic, that's why. So he writes, our idea is to have a series of events monthly that welcomes in the venue touring European bands, especially focusing on neighboring countries, Hungary, Austria, and Serbia in this case. One of the main problems when welcoming a band from abroad is that the cost of the staff of the venue is really high. And in a lot of cases, we have to pay the staff also from the ticket income. This way, less money remains for the performing artist. We usually offer them 3 or 4 concerts in several venues across Romania. Is it possible to cover the costs of the staff of several venues from LIVEMX, or it must be directed to one venue? And can we mix the series events with a series of regular networking events? Maybe I can give before Ken gets into more of the content, but I can. I'm going to use this question to give you a bit of a reflection on what we are looking for with the projects here. We want not something that is a one-off activity that occurs once, like a tour, for example, or like a set of concerts that happens during the year of the project and then it finishes. What we need is new solutions for problems that you can test out in your own organization or in the network of organizations in which you are going to develop the project. You can test it out, but you have to develop a methodology or just some kind of solution that will remain in time and that can be used by other venues. For example, here, if you are going to find a way, so it's not for funding, it's not really for funding a one-off set of concerts in Romania, for example, of international artists. It is for you to be able to provide some kind of solution for this to be able to always be feasible for your organization and for other organizations in Europe. So I don't know if you can invent some kind of methodology in which you can, I don't know, I'm not going to invent a project now because then I would apply myself, but I'm just joking. But, you know, just think of methodologies, solutions, innovation, not funding of one-off activities. But the idea of working with your neighboring countries is a very good idea, that for sure.
Yeah, I think the main weakness of the project right now is that it stops working as soon as there is no funding, no subsidy. So it's like it's a temporary solution by subsidy. And so you need to apply it again and again and again to keep this going. If you can build something into the project that makes it more of something that is teachable and something that will grow in time. If you say in the first year we kind of have it's going to cost more money than it will actually bring in at the door, but the idea is to promote something and to sell more tickets in the end. That kind of thing would like build it. So if it's about creating, why not a touring festival for Hungarian and Romanian bands, and we want to promote this thing like a touring festival that promotes unknown bands, but people buy a ticket for the festival, that kind of thing. That will be something that you could build into a project. But just simply saying we want to have the cost of the venue subsidized so we can pay more for the artists, that's not a sustainable solution. And also, and I know this is like the delay on the chat, but also this is more on artist circulation than it is on ecological sustainability. Okay. My second point that I wanted to make during the talk on ecology is, can we go beyond harm reduction? Can we do more than just do less evil? Can we also do more good? Can ecology also be about turning music venues into forces for good in your community? So it doesn't have to be just about lowering the carbon footprint. Can it also be about creating something more and something better, in making a better world? A lot of these ecology things are about doing less, but it could also be about doing more. Why not planting trees or having gardens or whatever? But it can be anything that is about doing something more as well, and not just about doing less harm. Is that something that you recognize? Anyone is working on something like that? Okay, we don't have any examples of ecological sustainability, if I'm right, from the previous LiveMX application, which is interesting because that means if there is one topic where you don't have a lot of competition, it's this one. So I would advise you to really think about one. If you can do it in this one, this is like an open sea where you can just jump in. I see Mauricio is raising his hand.
Yes, I mean, sure, turn my camera on. Okay, the thing is that on this topic of environmental sustainability is not only about doing less harm or planting trees. Those are actually, in my point of view, and then the experience that we have with Music Cares, is that we need to really give tools and know-how to the people organizing professional music events. And then this is what we thought, okay, as a solution, we have to give them information. We have to give them enough tools to see where is actually possible to reduce your carbon emissions and be smart, efficient, and really not only convenient, but it has this component of it works for me if I am conserving like the resource conservation. It's not only about the emissions, but the water, and then that has also, because we have some studies about this, that has also an impact on this socioeconomic aspect. If you do something for the environment, then you wouldn't have to pay more at the end. Then you will, it's like a relation of the cost benefit relation. It has to, at the end, be optimized, and then you will reduce resources, and then you will save money. So this is where we are like looking into it, not only as planting trees, because that's probably compensation that drives more into the question of, is this greenwashing for a venue, for a festival, or I am really being smart and efficient on the resources that I'm putting for organizing an event, a concert, festival, whatever. And this is where what I think we need to give more know-how, information, really in an efficient way, and connecting the different initiatives working on sustainability. I have I mean, we have already like a list of providers that are already doing something on this matter. So, but everybody's doing like scattered, like somewhere, and then we need to collect this and then work as my point of view as a network, as a joining force, So this is where we at, and then we'll continue. Just a comment on this.
I think I fully agree. And thank you for adding this. I think that one way of writing application here would be to say we're not just working on reducing our own carbon footprint, but we've done that already. We've learned from that, and now we can teach this to other people. We can disseminate this information, or we can combine forces, join forces, and see what happens. This could also be a part of the ecological sustainability thing, because a lot of it is about exchanging knowledge and expertise, and not just about infrastructure and limiting your own carbon footprint. And the topic of greenwashing is also good that you've raised that. We don't want to be, it's not just about ticking a box and saying we're doing a festival and planting 2 trees, and that's going to be a thing where we need, that's not the kind of thing that we need. Okay.
We have another question in the chat that I will read, because there's also no mic for Adam. What activities, because it's related to this challenge, what activities can be carried out as part of the project? Workshops, concerts, lectures, educational activities. For example, a workshop on noise pollution led by experts on sound ecology, environmental education in the field of noise, sound the cities, etc. Basically, this is all ecology, but in a different dimension. Well, Ken can answer, but I think absolutely noise pollution is part of ecology, and I think that is a good target. I just want to use the opportunity before I forget as well, and I know I'm very insistent on this, but it is really important. In this specific challenge, we did see in the first round many proposals that were targeted at investing into the structure of the infrastructure of a music venue, to install, for example, solar panels. Like that is a very common example. This is not the aim here. It has to be some kind of, again, a solution or a methodology that is, or a training program, like Mauricio was saying, was a very good example, that is useful for other organizations, other venues, especially from other countries as well. But going back to Adam's question, I think yes, but I'll let Ken also elaborate there.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a very good perspective as well. Noise pollution in cities, especially combined with live music venues who are also big producers of noise, but in a positive sense. So that's kind of a good story, I think. What I worry about a bit is if you apply to have a panel discussion with experts on noise pollution in your own city, it doesn't really have that European dimension. So make sure that whatever you do is also interesting and teachable for the rest of Europe or for a larger set of cities. So make sure that you don't think too small here, because then it won't be fundable. Make sure that it's something that the rest of Europe can also learn from. So a European think tank on noise pollution and how to address this specifically for live music venues sounds a lot like up the alley of a live DMA. If it's just we have a conference and there is a panel, can we have this funded? That's probably not going to work. All right. Can we jump to the final, the third one, challenge 3? My favorite hobby horse, to develop new audience strategies. And I think to start by saying the first one, which is that booking great bands is only half the work. This is a saying that I repeat probably every month. Live music venues are very passionate about the bands they put on stage, but what would happen if they're just as passionate about the audience they try to draw in? So we're looking for strategies to bring in new audiences, more audiences, different audiences, and to use this, one way of looking at it is to make sure that if you book unknown bands, that they play for a full house and not for 2 people. How can you do this? But also to anything that's got to do with finding underprivileged audiences, new audiences, people you haven't reached, young audiences, whatever. This is really about setting up strategies to bring in new audiences, but not just for your venue, but something that we can learn from again in the whole of Europe. What kind of experiment can you set up to tinker with that, the option of audience development? We've worked with LiveDMA on a tool that is called the Triangle tool. It's also on the website of LiveDMA, and that really was just slightly finalizing the test drive that we've done with it. So it's going to change during the summer. But have a look at that, because it gives you a lot of ideas about how to develop new strategies for audience development. But this really is, I think, a key challenge for music venues. There's no point in having a venue if there's no audience. Anybody who's working on that one?
I can share an example from the first round.
Yes, good. And I see somebody, Luis, raise his hand.
Hi, I'm Luis from Murcia in Spain, and well, after this part of this conversation, I'm not sure if our project is eligible. So I want to ask what because we're gonna do a long 1 year long project, and the result of this project will bring us the information to develop the audience. It doesn't mean that we have to wait until the end. Is a developing thing.
Yeah.
To try to put it in only a few words is market investigation, but made about 4 different investigations that go more or less together. The idea is to have a huge investigation on our region, on Murcia, southeast Spain, for people not really into live music venues. It's general public. We would like to do two big investigations, one at the end of the period and a first one when we are starting with it. But we want also to investigation on each of our associated venues. We are a music venues association, in Murcia. And what we will want to do is to also investigate our public inside the venue. And we want to ask about the venue itself, about the bands, about the music people likes, about the timings of the concerts, the frequency, and many other things. We want to also bring questionnaires to the acts coming to the band, to the venues to play, and to generate information. What about what they think about the venue? Which are the venues and the regions have they visited? Which are the venues outside the region of Murcia? And regarding international bands, where have they been and what kind of venues they like to play in? And also we have to ask the owners and programmers of the venues to know how they see the sector and how they see the work that they do and the results. At the end, the idea behind it is to give them information about how they are doing their job and what should they do to make things better.
Yeah.
And sorry.
The issue with what you're describing is that it is very local, and it's only it's a market survey for Murcia, so that's going to be an issue.
No. Well, okay, let's put it good. Murcia is visited by people from other regions because we have a huge live music movement. We have our association put together maybe 1,000 concerts a year, and we're visited by nearly 100,000 people buying tickets to see bands.
So my
45% of the bands coming to Murcia are from outside of Spain.
Yes, Luis, that was not my point. My point was, if you want to apply with LIVEMX, LIVEMX Joy is going to look at this and going to say this is a music survey, an audience survey, or a band survey for a region in Spain. So there is no dimension where the rest of Europe can learn from this. So your challenge would be to find a way of making it teachable for the rest of us. So one way of doing it could be if you set it up with 2 or 3 other countries and have the questionnaire, the same questionnaire. What you could do is like have one international band on tour and then do all of the venues on that tour, work together with them and see what can happen. But you need to have this European dimension here, a collaboration with other countries, and also something that you can show to the rest of Europe afterwards as these are things that we've learned from it. I think this is very important because otherwise it's going to be looked at as a very good project, but not one that is eligible for LIVEMX. I think that is a challenge.
Okay, I agree at some extent, but I disagree greatly with that because statistical information can be placed from here to some other places. If I describe my city, we can find many other in Europe that are quite the same.
Well, Luis, but then we totally agree. If you can show that whatever you're doing is valid and valuable for the rest of Europe, make sure to write that into your application. This is how we're going to disseminate this information. This is what we can teach Europe about. If you don't, if you don't mention that, it's going to look like a very small local thing that's very valuable for your area, but not for the rest of Europe. Make sure that if it's something, make sure that the questions are really good, that they are really interesting for the whole of Europe. Make sure that perhaps what I would advise you is to, why not have the questions be created by an international board of music professionals, not just Spanish music professionals, but also ask somebody from Sweden, Poland, whatever, other places in Europe. So the questions become more universal. And then you can say, we are doing this in Spain. We are the only applicant for the whole thing, but the result is going to be shared with other music venues, and there are going to be teachable elements in there for other music venues. Make sure that you put that front and center, because otherwise it's going to look like something that is very good, but very good for Murcia and not for the rest of Europe. I think that is your challenge here.
I understand. One last thing. the cost of it is enormous, bearing in mind the amount of people that you need to make all those researchers week in, week out through a year. If this is done by 3, 4, 5, 6 countries, I think it is with many of the countries, all the participants, we have to split the money into these 5, 6 other countries, I guess. Yes?
Yeah.
You should find a way to do it. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Anna Maria.
Hi. Thank you very much for taking us on this road. One question from my side, because I'm working in Berlin for a new club, which is now built on African art. So with especially the right-wing kind of formations in any European countries, it's really hard for to get diverse people, but also to showcase how rich their art is. It's not about like showing Africa with poor little babies. It's about like real cool, tough art, visual arts and stuff like that. So we're creating this space. It's pretty new. And I was wondering, because we're talking about this whole Europe thing, if that is also possible in case we showcase, especially when it comes to African artists. It's hard to get them here because of visa restrictions and stuff. If we come up with a concept, especially for Europe, how it gets easier for African artists to connect with Germany, but also with other European countries, maybe reaching out to other clubs that has or other venues that have the same idea or the same love for the African culture. So that's why my question, is that possible that we can apply for that, or is like it's a European thing?
I think the way to look at it for me would be if you're going to apply, your application is going to be on a table with a lot of other applications. And when we look at how we're going to spend the money, what's the best way of spending the money, then it's always going to be better to invest in European artists and their circulation. So it's a bit of a drawback here. But there is a huge diaspora of African artists in Europe. And so my advice would be to focus on bicultural artists and specifically musical artists, because this is also not about visual arts or whatever. Make sure that making sure that it's about music. But if you specialize in, we want to be a place for bicultural African European heritage artists, musical artists in Berlin, your project becomes very, very specific and narrow and interesting. And it could be something that is very interesting to learn from. How do you work with people from outside of Europe? If you're really going to do it about, we want to find a way of funding bands coming in from Namibia or whatever, Senegal or whatever, that's going to be not very interesting for Europe. But if you turn it around and you really make it about artists who work from this bicultural background, I think is a good way of addressing it. Another way of doing this is by saying we want to do audience development, which is this one, and we want to really invest in reaching audiences from that bicultural African diaspora in Berlin. How can we reach them? That would also be a way of making it teachable for other cities in Europe that have a large African community. But I think you have to make sure that it's about Europe. I think that is key here, because otherwise, even if it's a good project, and even if everybody likes it, it's going to be at the top of the heap because the others are more urgent and more focused on Europe itself. But I think there is a very clear and cool and valuable project that you can turn it into if you really focus on music, artists, and then the connection between Africa and Europe, but make it about African artists here and not about importing artists from the rest of the world. Make sure that we invest in the artists that live here, for example. That could be a thing.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Can we jump to the last slide that I prepared, which is one that I want to impress upon you, is that what you're doing is mission-driven work. It's not customer-driven work. It really is, you want to change the world, want to make it better. That's what live music venues are about. And this is not about informing people, but it is about convincing people. So make sure that whatever you do, it's also about showing people how the world could be and inviting them to join in there. So one of your projects could also be about convincing people to do something they've never done before. I think that's also an angle to approach these projects with. Okay. Any more questions on the 3 topics, or can we, because I'm looking at the time, we still have some time. We have time for questions.
Can I add
Just before
something?
we jump on to Josie, sorry, you can unmic straight after this little comment, Josie. I just wanted to give a quick reminder to everybody that, you know, you are receiving a lot of input on your projects today and a lot of feedback. Just a reminder that the jury is external to everybody that's in this space. So we took on an external jury as of the first round of applications. And it's the same jury that will be judging independently all the projects. So none of the experts that have joined us and none of the consortium that are here in these different sessions are part of this judging process. So I just wanted to make sure that was clear for maybe those of you that haven't attended yet, before passing on to Josie and several hands that I can see we've got up in the chat right now.
Can I use just a short moment before we forget about Ana Maria's project proposal from before? I didn't hear much about venues in that idea, though the idea and also Ken's contributions to it, I think, could be really interesting. But make sure that it's focusing on venues and not the artists themselves. So for example, how to make sure that European venues are a platform for diaspora promotion of artists, for example. But you know, always remember the live music venue if we're going for live music venue topic. I know that I keep insisting, but just I can be boring, but I am also a nice person sometimes. And now we can go to Josie, I think.
Hi guys, hope you can hear me. Yeah, I just wanted to like recheck if I understood correctly that, like, for example, for our project, I'm part of the Music Cares with Maurizio. If it's possible, like if we apply under the framework of this digital solutions kind of thing, and then choose like the focus on the live music venues, that the most important thing about it is that we make it like, or we have to describe clearly how it's helping, like how is the project helping live music venues in Europe, basically, like in the end, to make it transferable. But then we could do it, like we can simply choose like the focus that we think fits best and then make it or addressing the challenge as much as possible as it is for us. Does it make sense? Like if we do it that way, like to describe how live music venues could profit, even though we are ourselves not a live music venue and it's not focusing on a specific live music venue or anything like that. It's more like we are creating a tool that also live music venues can really use, hopefully, but not, but also many other players from the music industry could use that tool, basically. We just have to like make the focus on the live music venues.
Yeah, I think I see that Erica was not nodding yes in the beginning of your sentence and then went to no as soon as you said it could be for everybody. I think this really has to be for live music venues. And so any way you can tweak the project so it really benefits. And one of the things could be to do it in collaboration with 2 or 3 live music venues that actually can work with you, learn from you, can benefit from the thing directly. That would improve your application. If it's going to be, we do something for the whole music industry, but we're now going to like write it so it looks like it's for the live music, for live music venues only. That's going to be a handicap in writing a convincing application. So I think you have a strong story, but you have a strong product, but make sure that the story is also the right story for you. So rethink it in the right way.
You mean like we can I don't want to lie about anything or like that. Of course, it's usable for many other players in the music industry, but we would, if we need this category, then we would focus on describing why it's useful for live music venues.
Yeah, and make sure that it is, for example, then one of the things you could do is make sure that you plan enough workshops and meetings and that kind of thing with live music venues. I think that would be a proof that it also is immediately teachable for these live music venues.
That's our approach anyway. Like, we need the data from venues to develop this project.
If then the workshops are we bring together 4 or 5 music venues, it's different from saying we bring together 4 or 5 music professionals, and there can also be people from live music venues. Then it becomes a bit more diluted and a bit weaker. Make sure that you really focus on the live music venues then.
Okay, thank you
So
much.
Ken, just before we jump onto Katarina and Aline, I know that Ines
Yes.
Martinez had a question as well. So we'll take Ines, then Katarina, and then Aline in that order.
Thank you.
Thank you, Grace. Hi, I'm Ines Martinez, and I'm working with Malandar, a music club in Sevilla. And when you mentioned, Ken, that there were no applications on the ecological side, I actually had an idea that I would like to run with you guys. Because when you mentioned about that maybe it doesn't have to be per se something around ecology, like within the club, but like how can music venues be a force for good? I've been working with an artist on the management side, where on every show that he does around the world, he chooses an activity around sustainability to do with his fans. Or so sometimes like he goes like walking dogs with his fans in a specific city, or he goes plugging with his fans. So I was thinking that maybe we could like create a network of music venues, and that's a system that music venues could join, where each music venue can choose maybe like 2 or 3 activities around ecology in their own city, and then that's something that can be offered to the bands when they come, that there's also maybe like a new way to like engage like with new audiences, where they can come and they can like go like, I don't know, like plugging around the beach, for example, in their cities if they have it, or maybe they can showcase a specific ecological company or solution that is in the city. Like, would this something that every venue in each different city could offer this type of showcasing ecological solutions for their cities, that maybe we could try here and then replicate with other cities, or like try it out?
Yes, the only thing is
Just thinking out loud, by the way, that's why.
well thought out loud then. It was good. I think what you need to do is make it more specific right now. If you there is this, we have a platform, we have the resources to help music venues do this one thing to promote ecology. And work together on this, and this is something that they can all benefit from, then it becomes really powerful. If it's to do various things with all kinds of options, it becomes a bit weak and unclear and foggy. Whereas if you say, this is the one thing we do, and we teach people how to do it. We have the also just like promotional stuff and everything you can download, tools to do it. But it's one thing, and it is a high impact thing, not one of those marginal, it helps a bit, but really something that off the top of my head, why not have the audience clean the venue afterwards, pick up all of the litter and put it away, something like that. That also instills this story of like littering and whatever. It could be something like that. But
yeah,
the one thing that is really clear that venues say, oh, this is interesting for us. We can ask artists to join in, but it's primarily about the venue. But I think you're something, if you can start some kind of movement that really have a high impact thing that you've like one thing that you've chosen, and that involves the audience. So also to teach it, to teach the European audience about ecology as well. I think there is something there, but it needs to be more specific than anything ecological. If you have that one thing and it works, I think you've got a good campaign that can be fundable.
Perfect. And it could be enough to like for this project to try and test it, like for example, like in 3 different venues, and make it like a teachable system with promotional material, a little bit like Bye Bye Plastic, for example, when they create like the writer or something like that, right? And then other venues could join.
And then you can either say we're doing it in Spain, and if we notice if it works, we can bring it to the rest of Europe, or why not just jump onto like 2 other countries and say there's 3 venues working together doing this thing, and then we want to like share it with the rest of Europe. That could also be a way of doing it.
Okay, thank you.
Ekaterina was the next one, I think.
Yeah, indeed.
Aline.
Hello. I would like to ask a question. The lady that said she could elaborate more on the projects that won the previous time, on the previous call. That would be good to know those examples, because I've been on the site and I could just read the names of the organizations, but I couldn't really get into what their actual projects were on. Yes.
Maybe if you go on the website, because we updated this last week. So if you actually go on the website now, it's the information is there for almost all the projects. There may be just like 2 or 3 that are missing, but you can now go into the project, see the abstract of the project, and connect to their links around it. So that's definitely the best space to go to. So if you're interested in the live venues one, you'll find the 11 selected projects, and everything is there for you to go through.
Thank you very much.
Those of us added a very important thing. You don't have to click on the picture, but you have to click on the actual title. And this is like a designed thing. So if you click on the picture, it looks like nothing happens. If you click on the title, you get a screen with all of the information. And there's also a show more, and then you get all of the information.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. And then we go to Aline.
Yeah. Hi. I wanted to ask a bit more clarifications about the third priority in the call, which is developing new audiences. And I wanted to ask, how do you define innovative schemes or practices, keeping in mind that the markets are really different in Europe if we compare geographically the countries and such, because it's still the music industry and some industries are way more advanced than others.
Yeah. The definition of innovation for me is after you've done your thing, the world should be slightly better. That's basically the definition of innovation, right? So make sure that whatever you do, even if it's like a small thing, but make sure that it's changed something. You've learned something, you've changed something, whatever. So it is really important that you take into account the local demographics and the geographical challenges that you have, but use those to do something. If you can set an example of this is our problem and this is a solution. If you build your application like that, I think you've got something. Building new audiences always starts from defining your audience. Who do you want to reach? That's what, like, the one, who is the audience you want to reach? That also starts from who do you already reach? What is the gap between these two? And then you start working from there. And it's about finding solutions to convince people to come to your venue, to find new audiences to do so, but really make it about your specific situation. And then show the rest of Europe that what you've learned, that it could also be used for the rest of, perhaps not even the rest of Europe. It could also be, I work in a small rural area. And so it's very hard to have big bands, but also big audiences. So these small venues in rural areas have got a different kind of approach than capital cities with multiple venues and touring bands and all of that. So it could be like, specify your challenge, and then make sure that you come up with an interesting solution. And I think you have a good application.
Thanks.
Well, thank you so much, Ken. And thanks to our colleagues from LiveDMA and Erica for presenting. I think we've just run out of time now, unless there's one last burning question, but I think we've managed to answer all the questions that we do have in the chat. As a reminder, next week you will find the recording of this session available on the LiveMX website, along with the other Meet the Expert sessions that we've had. Also, another reminder of the deadline for the applications, which is the 24th of June. And for follow-up on any of the questions, as mentioned earlier, we do have the email general@livemx.eu, which I think Patricia's been putting in the chat. Hopefully you found as well interest in the content that Patricia has been adding into the chat with the different questions and doubts that we've seen you've had over through the last open call and this one. And hopefully this session together has cleared up some of the doubts that you've had and helped you develop in your project. And then just a final reminder, you do have the application form video, walkthrough video available as well on the website. So hopefully you have all the resources that you need now to make that great winning application.
Don't leave yet. Thank you, Grace. Just one small remark, but it's an important one that was explained in the info session, but I believe I forgot to mention before. There is a country cap to ensure that there's geographical distribution. That means that there will be maximum two projects from one country in each macro topic. So, for example, I'm looking at Ines, so I'm going to say Spain. There will be maximum 2 Spanish projects selected for live music venues, including digital live music venues. So take that into account in case you are already working on a collaboration project, you're working with other partners. Maybe you can consider, if you think that your country is going to have many proposals, you can consider the beneficiary being another applicant. Like the main applicant could be someone from a less represented country, a smaller country that usually there's less proposals from there. You know that in the end that the beneficiary, the applicant is the same thing, will be signing the contract and everything, but you can work in collaboration. So just consider and just take into account this important thing for the evaluation. Maximum 2 projects per country will be selected so that there is no country that is taking up more projects than others, you know, that we have geographical distribution. That's all.
No, thanks for sharing that point, Erica. And I think a key learning, hopefully, from this session today has been the real value of adding that European dimension when presenting, because I think that's sort of come through in every question that we've had, is we've always tried to challenge you and push you in how you can think, you know, beyond that national or local level project. So, you know, that would be a final closing tip and remark for everybody is, you know, don't forget that European added value dimension in your application proposal and make it as clear as possible. So without further ado, once again, thank you. And Patricia just dropped the comment in the chat, and you do have the FAQ section as well on the website. So thank you for joining us for these capacity building sessions, and all the best of luck with your application process to everybody. Have a great day.